it for me. Thank you guys so much, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye. All right, good episode, Dean. All right, let's get this box open, dude. I didn't order this. I swore I threw this away. I swear. What the fuck? I have a Halloween episode to get to, man. Been like 3 years. God, I such a headache. Oh, what's wrong? Oh no. Oh no. Hey, guess who? I'm back! Back again after slaying Cthulhu, returning back to the depths of the blue. But I'm sick of this curse, I'm yearning to burst. To remain on this earth, I can't think of much worse. So thank the gods, well the ones who still live, that I know what to do about this pickle I'm in. All I need is a vessel. Yo, give me weed, cause I'm special. Last time around, I escaped an asylum. This time around, I just wanna get high. Let me call up my guy, cause he'll get the assignment. Spaceman they call me, cause I'm a star pilot. Wait, who are you guys? I wanna be high, I don't care who these guys are. I just wanna see the stars. Getting kicked out of Mars bars. I wanna be high, I don't care who these guys are. I just wanna see the stars. Probably the best take I've had. This is the whole time. I have deleted so many takes, and that was terrible, but it was still probably the best one I had. Good lord. Dead Space is one of the games that actually helped me get into horror games. I didn't hate horror games before Dead Space, quite the opposite. There were many times I tried really hard and failed to play through the newest, scariest game, dating back to the original Resident Evils as a kid. You know, I actually rented Resident Evil 3 on the PS1 a bunch as a kid, and I couldn't even get through the original encounter at the police station.
How did he find me?
And even if it wasn't a horror game, it's extremely rare for any game to pull me back for multiple playthroughs, especially if that game doesn't have a varying ending or multiple choice. And that would of course go doubly true for any kind of horror game. I just didn't find the fun of being stressed out and scared of turning every corner all the time. But 13 years ago, I finally began to love horror games. And it's in large part thanks to Dead Space. There's not going to be a simple answer here as to why Dead Space helped convert me. And in turn, it helped me discover one of my favorite genres in gaming now. But if you do any level of internet deep diving, you'll quickly see just how many people consider Isaac Clarke's ill-fated journey a masterpiece. And after my most recent playthrough, over a decade after its launch and roughly the same amount of time since my last playthrough of it, I can't help but agree. But before I get too far ahead of myself, let's just start from the top. Once the game begins, you're immediately thrust into the world and in control of our main victim, Isaac Clarke. The game quickly informs you that you and your small team of corporate something or others are on a small rescue mission out in the far reaches of space to rescue and repair an old planetary mining vessel called the USS Ishimura. And before we get any further into this video, it's here you realize Dead Space really takes a sharp left turn from standard horror game archetypes of its time. Unlike other action horror games of that time, where you're the protagonist on a mission to stop the evil at hand, in Dead Space, you're the crew who's there to fix the broken machine and hopefully get paid for it. More specifically, you're sort of the space IT guy. Yeah, you're the one here to fix the ship, while the others in your crew are the seasoned soldiers and commanding officer leading the rescue effort. In this very quick but effective opening, we're shown the small crew hurtling through space on our way to the Ishimura as we're being fed the mission. We're also introduced to Isaac's personal stakes in the game as well, his girlfriend Nicole, who works on the Ishimura. We're not given much time to breathe though, before our light speed travel comes to a quick halt and the enormous planet-cracking ship that we need to fix comes hurtling into view, hauntingly floating around the planet that it was destroying, as the nearby star casts everything in this eerie orange glow. Before your ship can even dock, things start to go to hell, and you're forced to emergency crash land the ship into the Ishimura instead. And from there, things spiral rapidly, and it isn't long until, well...
Something's in the room with us.
Yeah, I don't think Isaac's getting paid enough for this one. This all happens within the first 10 or so minutes. And man, Dead Space has held up visually, like really well. You gotta keep in mind, this is a game from 2008, and the PC version was just a port of the Xbox 360 version to boot. Like, it's not even a made for PC version. Sure, look close enough and you'll definitely see the age in the game's textures, but Dead Space knows where it thrives. And first and foremost, that's in its lighting. The Ishimura is an old, broken down, nearly completely decommissioned industrial ship, and every inch of this game's areas ooze with that theme. Lights above flicker on and off. Sparks shoot from live wires, dark shadows and silhouettes are casted in cramped hallways. Everything about the atmosphere of Dead Space is cohesive and magnificent, visual world building at its finest. And if you're looking at the game and thinking to yourself, this looks a lot like Ridley Scott's Alien, you'd be right. Dead Space very clearly wears its influence on its sleeve, and it's all the better for it. You see, Dead Space is a show, don't tell kind of game. Even before we get our first sight of a necromorph, Dead Space is telling you a story in just its visuals. Everything it does is in the service of one goal, immersion. Take your HUD for example. Most games would give you a health bar, an ammo count, a weapon selection bar in the bottom left, and so on. But Dead Space has all of this built into the world. Your health doesn't have a health bar per se, it's told to you on your suit. And when you pop open your inventory, Isaac looks at whatever it is you're highlighting, kind of choosing along with you. And instead of cutscenes, when characters give you a call, it's a video projected by your suit. You can still move Isaac, play the game, rotate the camera. Everything is happening in-game in real time as the game continues. Even the weapons display the amount of ammo naturally within the game world on the weapon. And everything about what Isaac is wearing and what he's carrying all makes sense for a space repairman who would be risking his life regularly to keep giant ships like this one afloat in space. There's so much attention to detail in Dead Space, it goes beyond Isaac in his suit, of course. The ship itself is filled with posters, imagery, and videos pushing this idea of constant productivity and to never stop working. Workplace propaganda at its finest. We can even just look at when we're entering the Ishimura for the first time. You're welcomed with this huge video telling you about how incredible the ship is, and how amazing its storied history is. And while you explore the ship further and further into its depth and its bowels, you come across graffiti from the workers about how much they hate it here, notifications hastily printed and taped onto walls, clutter and a grimy industrial look. You can easily imagine a family having lived and worked on the ship over the course of generations, all for a pittance of pay and the luxury of living here. And that's what I love about it. You can easily envision what the day-to-day must have been like while the ship was operating. Anyway, enough gushing. Where'd we leave off with Isaac? Right, things aren't going well on the Ishimura for Isaac. Come to find out, actually, the ship is more than just broken. It's been overrun by these horrifying creatures called the necromorphs, surprise. And it's up to Isaac to figure out what happened and to find a way out of there, and hopefully maybe unravel a few space mysteries and rescue his girlfriend along the way. I know this game is nearly freaking 15 years old at this point, But honestly, I don't want to spoil the fun of the unfolding story for those who still might not have played it, especially with the remake coming around. So after that little intro, and you see that very first necromorph encounter, you're officially let loose onto the Ishimura. How exactly do you kill a necromorph, you might be wondering? Oh, alright, well, there, that's easy enough.
Go for the lift.
Okay.
Dismember.
Okay, I get it. God, if it wasn't obvious, Dead Space was insanely proud of its combat. Specifically, obviously, the limb cutting part. Yeah, this was actually kind of a huge central selling point for the game, and I can see why. Up until now, most zombie-like monsters in horror games were taken down with headshots. But in Dead Space, they really wanted to throw you for a loop, and headshots do practically nothing. Hell, a lot of the time, if you shoot the head just simply falls off the necromorph and they charge you really quickly and aggressively. Instead, what you need to do is immobilize them, taking out their limbs one by one so that they have no way to reach you anymore. But even then, it's not a guarantee. They can't necessarily be fully trusted if they fall to the ground dead. Most of its limbs could be removed, but as you walk by, it still might leap up at you as you try to pass it, trying to kill you or take a free bite. Thankfully, Isaac has one of the most satisfying foot stomps in gaming history. The limb-focused combat's a simple change when it comes to a survival horror game, but that one simple swap intensifies every encounter moving forward. Each necromorph is now like a little puzzle box filled with wildly flailing weak points, with each necromorph type having different limb removal priorities for the player that they'll learn through experience and fear. The necromorph that charges you, for instance, you might want to take out their legs to buy some time while you manage everything else Dead Space might be throwing at you. While the tentacle baby monsters are all about waiting them out for them to splay out their weaponized needle shooter things so that you can tactically remove them from their bodies. As the game continues too, it does a great job at keeping these enemies ever evolving, upping their speed, adding armored parts to the bodies, forcing you to focus on different body parts, all while throwing a large variety of them at you all at once, just to keep you on your toes. Oh, so nice in Dead Space. All of this only adds to the game's relentless, chaotic, and violent tone. If Dead Space was a movie, it'd be Aliens, not Alien. With all that said, imagine if the game hadn't outright spoiled all of that at the beginning of the game before you even got a chance to really fight anything. Imagine you're creeping through the halls on your first playthrough. A necromorph drops from the ceiling and your gut instinct is to bop its head. You line up the shot and bam, you take the head off. Only it continues to come at you, but now more aggressively. The confusion and panic in the player could have been one of the most memorable moments in gaming history, but instead they kind of just
Go for the lift. Dismember them. You gotta cut off the lift. That should do the job.
Of course, it doesn't spoil the game, but it certainly knocks the wind out of the game's sails a bit at the start. Luckily, beyond a little disappointment at the beginning, this does nothing to hurt the kinetic combat that Dead Space has, and its insistence on never letting you catch your breath, with every encounter being frenetic and by the end, leaving you counting your ammo, praying nothing big comes your way before you can get a restock. And thanks to the game's near-perfect pacing, the gameplay really never gets old. The Dead Space devs really understood what they were doing here. Just when you're starting to feel safe or confident in the game, Dead Space isn't afraid to lock you in a room with 10 to 20 enemies coming at you from all directions. And if you've recently been assaulted, it eases up a bit, rebuilds that spent tension on the player, keeping you in quiet, creepy hallways with the distant sounds of the now all too familiar necromorphs desperately hunting you down and clamoring through distant vents. It's a beautifully done tug of war, and through the game's 10-hour campaign, I was never fully comfortable with turning the next corner. And the last piece to the Dead Space puzzle that nestles it amongst the greatest horror games of all time is its audio. I know I touched on it briefly earlier, talking about the Ishimura's deep, painful mechanical groans and the guttural noises that spew forth from the necromorphs, but it also has to be said that Dead Space won awards for its audio design, like a lot of them. The game's AI was even programmed to know exactly when to bring up the tension with music or play more quiet, looming, atmospheric music if an enemy was nearby ready to jump scare the player. It played perfectly to the player's fears and anxieties and was the last ingredient needed to make this such a masterpiece. The lighting, the pacing, audio, story, it's all just mwah. Yeah, Isaac's story is definitely a good one. Well worth experiencing on your own without spoilers. There's a few bizarre choices that they make, but I can't go into much detail without spoiling the game. But those are really nitpicks when it comes to the grand scheme of things. Dead Space is still a perfect horror game experience, and I really hope they do the game proud in the remake.
Something's in the room with us.
I gotta say, dude, probably the best Halloween special yet. I hope you have a good time editing this. I don't know what to do about this, man. This is creeping me the hell out. I mean, I think it's just fan mail. Like, someone sent me a gavel. Maybe I could just use it as a prop. Yeah, I mean, well, yeah, maybe like at the end of every episode, I can just be like, I make my judgment. Like,